And so normally, Jimmy, this is supposed to be the section where we have like emails and by the emails from people, and it sounds like we didn't really get any. So we're just going to jump right into our guests.
Yeah.
We have Carrick Jones. He is at UDM Radio, and he also works for the Varsity News. And then we also have Matt Dudek, who is one of the denizens of the Grizz Talk message board. And we're going to go ahead and
talk to the show, fellas.
Yes,
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and we are talking about the Metro series. The first game of the series is going to be coming up on the 16th.
I'm excited as somebody who is outside the realm of the greater Motown area. I am very excited for this game. Just the amount of, I don't want to say animosity, but the amount of passion at both of the schools to beat the other team is so great that I'm just personally very excited about this upcoming game that I can't wait. So I know you guys are the same way, and much more so because you're not on the outside, you're in it. Carrick's on the Detroit side, and Matt's on the Oakland side. So I can't wait to get in there and dig into it and talk some hoops with you fellas.
Sounds good to me.
Yep, should be a good time.
That's wonderful. So Matt, I wanted to talk about the Oakland game today.
All right.
The big change that I see coming today, obviously, is that Brad Brechting all of a sudden is in the starting lineup. Percy Gibson didn't play much at all. I don't even know if he got even off the bench in the first half.
Did not get off the bench in the first half. Started.
Was Coach Campy trying to send him a message?
Oh, absolutely.
You got to pick it up. What was that about?
It was absolutely a message. It started at the end of the Valpo game, which we all know how that worked out for us, and continued through the first half of the UIC game, where Percy should be able to be a really big force in this conference. He's built bigger than pretty much anybody else, and he should be able to really run the paint, and he hasn't been. I think Campy hasn't been pleased with just the production that he's getting, and really the effort. More, it's not about the numbers; it's the effort. It's that eye test more than the statistics, and he sat him down. I know that for sure. Campy is a lot more of a taskmaster than some of the coaches in the conference, and he really demands more out of some of his players than you may expect from down the street or here in Milwaukee. Definitely at a place like, say, Youngstown. So it's not a surprise to see him sitting a guy down like this. Probably the good point of the season to do it. I'll sit you in the first half of the UIC game. Do you think that Brechting himself had anything to do with that? Was Brechting, has he been playing well, or was it really just this was more of about a message for Gibson rather than Brechting, let's get you ready because we're going to be looking towards you in the near future? I think it's both. I mean, Brechting originally was supposed to redshirt this year, and coming out of that Spain trip, they decided that he was going to play because he's got a lot to do, but he's got a lot of skills that we don't. I mean, he's a 7-foot freshman that can play some defense, and they talk about his motor that he doesn't stop. So I think that was definitely a part of it, was getting him some minutes where maybe he hasn't seen a bunch, and maybe letting him go a little bit where KB is known to have a short leash. If you make a mistake, he's going to bench you quick, and he's got some depth so that he can do that. And I think this kind of gave Brad a chance to get some more minutes and get some experience, which is great. But it was also a big message to Percy. He talked about it in his post-game presser today.
Oh, he did talk about it in the press conference.
It wasn't a secret. There wasn't a speculation. It was a message to Percy of, he talks about Percy's a great guy apparently, and I've unfortunately haven't had the chance to really meet Percy or talk to him much. A little bit on Twitter, but apparently he's just that jovial guy. Someone you just want to hang out with. Great guy.
He's a big dude. They list him at 6'9", 271. You'd think that he would. You think that he'd throw the jovial away and start beating some people up in the post.
Well, and that was Campy said, but is he someone you want to go to war with? And that's kind of up to Percy to decide. Does he want to go to war? And apparently Felder, after the Valpo game, he didn't do the post-game press conference. He was in the locker room and apparently had one-on-one conversation with everybody and stepped in that leadership role vocally, not just on the floor, but vocally. And I'm sure a big part of that was getting with Percy, who he's known for a while, and saying, look, man, we need you to play a role, and we need you to do it now.
So you mentioned war, and too often in sports, people are willing to use war metaphors.
Mm-hmm.
But this game coming up this week, the Metro Series, and while you guys had a pretty wonderful day today in Rochester, down the road, Carrick Jones was kind of ready to pull off the headset and walk out of Callahan Hall in the first half of that game as Valpo, kind of took the Titans to the woodshed, Carrick.
Yeah, they had it their way with us in the first half, that's for sure.
Yeah. It was good to see that they were able to fight back.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things about that game. Whatever happened with Chris and Paris, that coach felt the need not to start them. That clearly showed on the face of everybody else in the first half. It's for me, it's same old McCallum, and it's just average, mediocre coaching. I think he's a wonderful person. Don't get me wrong about that. I just don't know if he's a solid Division I basketball coach, and I think that decision hindered the game. But once they got going good. Anton shot really well today. He's been on fire lately.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can get the pieces going, and all the moving parts, I think they're going to be all right. They're clearly a talented team, but Josh McFarley needs to grow up a little bit, and Paris Bass needs to try, because you could see it on his face that he did not care.
I mean, if you look at the box score, I mean, I watched the game itself, so I do have some opinions outside of this box score. But just looking at that specifically, you'll see, a lot of people are looking for their points, their rebounds, and the straight integer numbers. And 16 points and 10 rebounds against the best team in the conference doesn't seem like such a bad idea. But then you start digging, you looked at the guy. He shot 50% from the line, which a lot of the times you're not expecting you're not expecting a guy to go and hit 12 of 12 shots, but you hope that he gets more than 6.
Yeah.
And then 5 of 18 from the field. He was kind of, to me, it seemed like Paris was forcing everything. When Valpo got up big early on, it seemed like Paris was really trying to force it so he could answer everything that Peters and the other guys were throwing at him by himself. And then in the second half, as things were starting to get closer, it felt like he was almost getting really excited, and he wanted to be part of that rally. So he was forcing up quick shots where maybe I know that Detroit's such a high octane offense, but you don't have to attack the basket in the first 3 seconds you cross half court line. And it seemed like Bass was doing that even when he was running into Vachel Fernandez, which is just not a smart thing to do, no matter what player you are in this league, to just take him head on, when you're 10 feet away from the basket. So it seemed like it was a good second half, but it definitely wasn't Paris that was really running the show there. It was definitely Anton Wilson was the real driver behind that. You guys almost coming back on them.
Yeah, really Paris never runs the show. He's not vocal at all. He prefer to sit and not say anything. But he's just a shy guy. But the thing that scares me, and they're talking about it on the message board right now, is that Paris has the green light to do whatever Paris wants. But if anyone else tries to do anything, McCallum immediately pulls him out. And I've seen a longer leash on Carlton Brundage this year, mainly because Carlton told Coach, I will take my next year somewhere else if I don't get a longer leash. But it's sad because you see it on Carlton, you see him do it to Matt Grant and Gerard now. Anybody else makes one mistake, they're out immediately. But Paris can do what he did today, and they leave him in, and it's kind of upsetting as a fan and as a guy who covers the team.
Now, is it obviously there's always been somebody with McCallum's teams. There's always been kind of like a golden boy almost.
Yeah,
and obviously we can talk about his kid, but I'm talking about, I mean, even in years when Junior wasn't there.
It was Juwan,
for sure.
It was Xavier Kneeling before I got there.
Yeah.
I don't know why he does it. I don't think it's good coaching. As someone who coaches, I think it's poor coaching. I don't know what it is, but the joke around with a lot of the players that aren't Paris when you're talking to them is Paris has a lot of Juwan in him.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that today. He didn't see a shot he didn't like.
Speaking of shots he didn't like, I mean, both teams here, we're coming up on this rivalry game, and the Metro Series features the two top scoring offenses in the HoriZone League. Both of you guys had a bit of a humbling weekend facing Valpo. I think that it's pretty clear that Valparaiso at this point is far and away ahead of the rest of us on the bell curve. And both of you guys who have had great scoring players have seen those players struggle against Valpo specifically. They maybe won't have those problems coming up against each other because Detroit's giving up almost 83 points a game. Oakland's giving up almost 79 points a game. So it seems like there's something to be said for getting those players back on track. But what are you guys looking for besides winning the game on Thursday? Matt, what would you say you want more than anything besides that victory in the Metro Series? What are you looking for on the one-game week out of your team? What do you want to see Oakland move forward and maybe retain that preseason number 2 spot?
For me, it comes down to getting back to working inside out in establishing a post presence. I know that Mercy struggles down low; they don't have a lot of size.
Yeah.
So I definitely would like to see Percy get back in and starting hopefully, but putting in that effort because if we can establish down low, Jalen Hayes as a number 2 option down low is a really big beast if somebody else is putting in the work at the center spot. So if they can get that established, that opens up the 3-point shot for Max Hooper, Rec League All-Star, or whatever,
Yeah. The greatest name in college basketball.
He's living out every rec player's dream. I'm just going to shoot threes and do it well. Love it.
Well, what about you, Carrick? I mean, you guys obviously had the tough day today. What is it about? Is it about finding cohesion? Is it because Detroit's got talent?
I think it comes back to them only having 2 seniors.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've watched the last few games, coach has really pulled Gerard out of the rotation, and he should, because I watched him tell coach to F off 3 games ago from my seat, sitting next to Perry Farrell from the Free Press, and tried to take him out of the game. And I've heard other guys complain about him. So, granted, if he's going to act like that, he probably does need to take a seat. Matt Grant might be injured. Nobody knows. He was in a walking boot. Now he's out of a walking boot, but he hasn't been playing. So I'd like to see some consistency. I really want to see Josh versus Felder because when I first interviewed Josh, that's the first thing out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Was I want to shut down Felder. I was his backup in AAU for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I know him, and that's the cool thing about this rivalry is even though we don't recruit the same circles for players, in Michigan everybody knows everybody. There's not that many AAU programs. Everybody knows everybody, and I just want to see the matchups and the personalities and seeing what Chris Jenkins can do. I feel like Chris Jenkins is in need of a big game on a big stage. He's that kind of guy. He's real cocky. He's real smart, 4.0 kid going to med school.
Sure.
And I really want to see him step up. So seeing Chris step up and have a big game, and then seeing how Josh does with Felder.
I love Chris Jenkins' hair, by the way. That's pretty much my favorite thing in the world is seeing him at the line. Somebody got a great screen capture from today's game. I don't know if he got he finally got to look at the scoreboard, and it's like, oh man, we're behind that much.
Yep.
It sounds to me like you're really looking for something out of the juniors to kind of step up.
Personally, on a personal level,
yeah,
I have no problem with the juniors not playing. I think CB deserves those minutes, and I'm biased, and Matt knows that. CB's one of my best friends. But that kid, the last few games, the old him is starting to show up.
Yeah.
You're seeing it. He drives in, drops the ball, and gets the foul. Not playing the juniors has worked, but I think Matt Grant is the kind of guy who, if Josh isn't Rashad Phillips on a broadcast with me last year was talking about Yogi Ferrell for a knee, and I said he's the straw that stirs the drink.
Nice.
If Josh can't stir the drink, then Matt Grant's got to stir the drink, because those are your point guards. Paris can't play point guards. That's a bad experiment.
Mm-hmm.
He gets two in his head. So, I'm really looking just for consistency. If the juniors only play 5 minutes each, then they better be a good 5 minutes. They better not be Gerard fouling people and Matt hawking up horrible threes.
So, I mean, I personally, from watching Brundage for the past couple of years, I really feel like that when he's on the top of his game, there's few guards that have the ability to play at his level in this conference. And it seems to me like if Detroit has any designs on maybe making a run here, setting themselves up for a top 2 spot, because Valpo's probably going to be there, but I do feel like Detroit, Oakland, obviously I'm biased with Milwaukee, Wright State. I think there are a few teams that actually have a good shot at that number 2 seed. And it seems to me personally that the Carlton Brundage that we've seen since December, I feel like that's a player that when you say he's the old CB, that kind of rang true. That rang true with me immediately, because I was thinking, if he can stay on track, this may be an offense that can really run more through him than run through Bass, who is at almost just straight chucker at this point.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, CB, obviously, national top 100 recruit out of high school, comes from a great pedigree. His dad was an NFL tight end and played for Coach K at Army. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I mean, if you ever watch our games, the first thing you notice about him is he's happy to be on the court.
Yeah.
He really enjoys his time out there, and I think him and Anton together, especially Anton, they've really grown up over the last few years, and that leadership is what they need. Because is Chris the leader on the floor? Absolutely, it's Chris's team.
Yeah.
But someone that's not Chris has to consistently step up, and if those two guys can be 2 more scoring options, then maybe it takes pressure off Paris, and Paris can just play his game. Because when Detroit's firing with all 4 scoring options, they're very, very scary.
The offense is just, it's almost like it can score at will. They're playing more freely, in my opinion. It feels like the offense is running at a more freestyle than they have under pretty much Ray Senior's entire tenure. And I really think that might be kind of like the silver bullet for them. Oakland's like that too. So if I say to you, Carrick, Oakland's a team that scores a lot, just like Detroit, but they kind of hold a little bit. They're kind of a little bit better on the defensive end. What is it that you see from Oakland that you really have to take into account heading into this game if you're going to win it?
Well, they got to do what they did last year at home. They can't play their game. They have to force Oakland to push the tempo and make Percy Gibson and Beeching very uncomfortable. They have to make him run up and down the floor because our 5 is a 6'6" take that can run up and down the floor and has no problem sprinting back and forth, because when he gets tired, they'll put Gerald in and switch him out. So, the thing that would scare me is if Oakland's setting up in zone defense and then we're not shooting threes over them, and at the same time they're going and setting up a half-court offense, we're in trouble because we don't play defense. So playing a half-court offense, it's not going to do anything because we don't play any defense. If we do, it's forced turnovers, but we don't do much defensively. So the key's got to be to push the pace. It's got to be a track meet. That's the only way Detroit's winning that game, is if it's a track meet.
You brought up the zone, and I noticed today in the Valpo game, Valpo was playing quite a bit of zone, and I noticed that Chris Jenkins was getting open in the middle of the zone, and nobody was finding him. I don't know whether
No, I saw that too. It's a young team, and I know it's an annoying thing to hear, and I'm annoyed with Coach saying it all the time right now.
Yeah.
But they really are a really young team. That Chris sat out 2.5 years. So as good and as smart as he is, he still didn't play basketball for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Paris might be 20, almost 21, but he acts like he's 5 years old. And he's sat out a year. So, Josh, your point guard's a freshman, and he's barely 18 years old. They're young, and they got to find Chris. And Chris has to be even more vocal than he's been. That's the one thing I noticed today. Chris got frustrated and wasn't talking, and that could make or break him. But I think Chris's arrogance and Felder's arrogance are both going to help them this week.
Yeah. Matt Carrick talks about, to win against you guys, that they've got to push the tempo. You think that that would be the right move for Detroit against you guys?
I would love nothing more than a track meet. I like my team in a track meet.
Yeah.
So he mentioned the zone defense. I disagree. One thing we were doing today, granted, yes, it was against UIC, is we were doing a lot of full court press and just playing deep into our bench because we should have a lot of depth. And I think that's one place where we get really ahead of Detroit is, their point guard play is struggling. So let's make them make plays right from the end line and see what happens. And I think we struggle with three-point defense. I think that's a campy thing, and it has been for years. Teams go off on us shooting threes. So I don't like the idea of getting into a zone defense, and I say let's run and have a track meet because Felder will go 40 minutes and he's a track star. I'll let Oakland run in a track meet all day.
What worries you about Detroit? What can they do that you can see losing that game?
They can get hot. They can get hot from three, and that's the killer in Oakland is they don't play good 3-point defense. They just don't get out there, and I don't know what it is, but it's always been that way as long as I've watched OU. Is players that shouldn't be going off do, and they just hit from three. And you know what? If Oakland can't get out to there and the other team's hitting, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And I think that's really what we saw the only time we have lost to Detroit.
You mentioned the 3-point shooting, and it's funny to hear that the 3-point defense at Oakland isn't good, and they're fourth in the conference. But then you really look at the numbers, and they're giving up 34% to the opposing players, which is, it's a green light. If you're an individual and you're shooting over 33%, at least on our team, you got a green light to shoot that three when you have it.
Sure.
And Detroit, you're shooting 40% from three. That's an unbelievable number. Get hot. The whole season is hot. 137 of 344 is the official number on 3-point shooting from Detroit. The shooting today, it wasn't quite as it wasn't quite so. They weren't shooting a lot. They only shot like 13 threes or 14 threes today, but they were falling. And Carrick, do you think maybe the best shot for Detroit in this game is to make it a track beat, but also take it to the outside?
Yeah, and that's when Anton and Chris are really going to come in. Chris's shot is horrible to look at.
Yes, it is.
It's horrible, but it goes in. I don't get it, and it's funny if you go watch practice. Chris mumbles to himself the whole time, and I asked him one day, "What the hell are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm counting. I keep my stats." I go, "What?" He goes, "I'm like 1,000 for 1,010 the last like 4 months at practice." He's an interesting character, but his three has really been hitting this year. And I know Anton's the big 3-point threat. We call him King 810. Nothing to do with the band that's gang affiliated. But
I like it.
He didn't believe it was a band, so I started calling him that. If he can get going, if he gets hot from downtown, he's scary. And the thing about Anton this year has been he's been able to get hot shooting a lot of mid-range shots. So if he goes inside and then steps outside and starts shooting, he's deadly in the corner. If Oakland's playing man-to-man and he can scoot off into the corner for a kick, he's going to hit that shot 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And you can have a hand in his face, you can push him, he's probably still going to hit it. That's what got him offers from Baylor and NC State. So if that's the plan, then it's got to be Anton and Chris. And I don't know if Oakland, outside of Hayes, has somebody that's got the length to cover Anton, because Anton's a guard, but he's 6'6", almost 6'7", and he just got real long arms and real long legs. And,
it definitely feels like Oakland, as great as everybody's getting on Oakland, and I think that any Greg Campy coach team is going to be in the mix. The thing that really is glaring to me as far as maybe a weakness of the team is you're missing Dante something awful on defense. You think I'm right on that, Matt?
I do. I think Sharon Dorsey Walker is that kind of that. What is he? I think he's 6'5", 6'6". Trying to find it. Yeah, he's 6. He's listed
6'6".
at 6'4". So yeah, he's right in that range though. I keep looking to him and waiting to see if he's gonna. They call him that glue guy. He's a great rebounder, which has been a lot of fun to watch. He's got a good shot, but I keep waiting to see him step into that defensive role. Martez Walker is still trying to find his place too. With that that mid-season transfer, that's always kind of weird with chemistry and everything. I think his big thing is going to be finding, as a defensive stopper as well, just because that is something, we joke about it at Oakland, but I think there's a lot of unfortunate truth to it. We're not a lot of times great defensive teams. Campy loves to look at the points per possession, and I get that, but then I watch games and the eye test just never feels good to me about it. So we are lacking that Dante Williams stopper, but Dante Williams was not someone that did that originally. He found that role as a junior and a senior because what he was there to do was score, and that wasn't really working so well for him. And he found for minutes he had to play defense, and I'm waiting for someone to step into that role, and it really hasn't happened yet.
We're coming up on this game where it's not a long way away. I mean, it's the 16th. Is that Friday or Saturday? Saturday night. Or is it Saturday night or is it Saturday afternoon?
3:00, I think.
Yep.
I think that it's not just us. You guys are getting a lot more 3:00 games than we did before, right?
Yeah.
It's this awful ESPN.
It's this ESPN contract, isn't it?
It's got to be.
Yeah, I just want to. As three representatives from three different schools in this conference, can I just say that this ESPN contract is so god awful.
Oh, it's horrible.
They had to have stuck us into that time slot to even out the number of games for their teams. Even out the number of games over their Saturdays during this basketball season, right? That wasn't because the HoriZone League decided we're just going to be like at 3:00. We're going to be more of an afternoon league. It's just, I don't know. It's such a joke. I'm at this point where I'm just kind of the ESPN contract is kind of surprising to me, especially when we're talking about a league that when the TV contract came up, there were viable options out there: Fox Sports, NBC Sports Network, CBS. There are more options than ESPN. We don't have to swallow what they give us, especially because the HoriZone League network was so great.
Looking forward to that when we join the HoriZone. I'm bummed I didn't get to really enjoy it as long as you guys did.
Did that pretty much drop off? Like when you came in, how many games would be in the? It was 13-14. So how many games for Oakland do you think you got to see for like HoriZone League Network?
I got a good deal because it was great getting to watch. We won soccer championship that year, and I remember watching it on my iPad on HoriZone Network, going, "This is awesome!" Like, couldn't make the game, sitting on my couch watching the soccer game, and it was cold out that night, so I didn't want to be there anyway. But like, the HoriZone Network when we came in, I thought this was just the coolest thing, and then when I heard that we were going to ESPN, I was like, okay, cool. I figured it was just going to be broadcast there, but still the HoriZone Network, and really this ASN ESPN3 thing has just not been as great as I think the HoriZone Network seemed to be for the little bit I got to enjoy it.
Carrick, when did you start at Detroit?
The fall of 2011.
Okay. So I'm just trying to remember when. So you at least got to experience HLN for a couple of years.
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah.
And there was a point where every sport, just about every game was on there except for what was actually on television, like on the guide.
Yeah, the only complaint I ever had about it was not watching it, but being in the arena during production. Those guys were in the way everywhere. Go to set up my equipment, they were in the way. Go to eat in the media room, they were in the way.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was great. And the thing now that really sucks is Comcast dropped ESPN3. So I pretty much have to go to the bar to watch the game, which is not fun for away games at all.
That's unfortunate. There's no Comcast support for ESPN3?
It's not included in like the basic 90 channel package or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not going to make my parents pay for it for a month. So really, because all our away games are in February. So and we don't get it on campus. So if I was on campus, I wouldn't get ESPN3 either with their package because they're with DirecTV. So it's kind of a pain. And ASN. We don't have. Matt, I think you can test this. I don't get ASN in Mount Clemens. I had never heard of it till we had it.
Well, it's what it is it's Sinclair Broadcasting, so it's like it's syndication, and they put together a bunch of channels. So like here we have the My TV, like the My 24 is what they call it here. It's what used to be like UPN, and that channel is like the American Sports Network's Milwaukee affiliate, and then in Detroit it'll be a different affiliate. And I know there's some affiliate. Is there a local TV station that does like one of your games?
Well, we've got Oakland is on My TV 20, which would be the equivalent to you, but which is an ABC broadcast. But it's not ASN, I don't think. Okay.
Cleveland State, by the way, their affiliate is in Canton, which is 90 miles away.
Where Cleveland State is on high demand.
Yes, of course it is.
Thanks for popping in there, Bob. But he's doing work, so I wanted to bring up at the end of the American Sports Network talk, I was watching the game today. The Detroit Valpo game was an American Sports Network broadcast. And the opening started with this woman who I made a crack that she looked like the chief from the Carmen Sandiego TV shows. And
great line today, Jimmy.
Yeah, Paul Oren really liked that one for some reason. But
Jimmy, you know that lady's dead, right?
Yeah. My mom watched the District show that she had been on, that Craig T. Nelson CBS whatever show, that cop show. She was on that show when she died. So I remember that she died, but getting past the chief, the woman who was running the studios, there was no analyst in studio. It was just the woman, and the studio itself was really nicely done, and she did her job wonderfully, but they had this 3-minute opening segment. It just made me slap myself on the head because it wasn't the studio, it wasn't the I wish I remembered her name, but it wasn't the woman running the show. They were both very well done. The graphics were very well done, but whoever wrote the copy for the opening of the show should get smacked in the face, because whoever wrote this, she comes on and she says, the battle here between Detroit and Valpo is between two undefeated teams. And if Green Bay loses later today, that team that wins this game will be in the first place in the conference alone. And I was just like, oh, God. This person, whoever wrote this yesterday morning. And if somebody on ESPN3 is thinking about passing through and checking out Valpo because they hear all the national guys, gushing about Valpo, they come on there and they see, oh, Green Bay's got a game later today. Maybe they'll be in first place. Maybe I'll check that out. And then they'll be like, where are they? Maybe they'll look at the box scores and see, oh, Green Bay lost to Youngstown State yesterday. Maybe whoever was writing the copy shouldn't put that on there.
Hey, losses to Youngstown happen. I want to talk about it.
Hey, and for the record,
yeah.
I got up to take a leak right at the start of the second half. Their producer was, I'm pretty sure, asleep. Like while the two guys were talking next to him in the first row next to the Valpo bench. His eyes were closed. His head was on his hand. And I walked by him and I looked at our usher, and our usher's got to be 100. That's right there. He goes, I don't know. And I go, okay. But he definitely looked like he was asleep.
So your usher's younger than your gym, at least. That's nice.
It's not 100 years old.
It was the 50s, right?
Yeah. Yep. It was built in the 50s. The same guy who built Cameron built it.
I'd like to see that gym packed to the gills, because that place is hard as hell to win in.
Come to a high school game.
You guys do high school games at Callahan?
The state quarterfinals are always there for D1.
Nice.
They were kicking people out last year. When Josh and Gerald played U of D Jesuit, they were legitimately kicked, because it's U of D Jesuit's home court. With Cassius, they draw too many for their 2,000-seat gym. They probably draw 3 or 4 there. And granted, U of D Jesuit has tons of rich alumni that follow them for every sport, everywhere they go. But yeah, no, they pack it for high school. But the reason we don't pack it has to do a lot with the school having no money and people in Callahan not getting creative enough. But I think the new marketing guy will do a lot better than the previous few years.
Yeah, we have this person who came in from UW Whitewater, which everybody knows UW Whitewater is this D3 football powerhouse. And she comes in to do the marketing for our program, and I think that she does this fantastic job when we haven't had anybody really running the marketing for a long time. And I feel like she's doing good, because you see stuff on social media. And then I look at you look at the attendance, and our attendance is down to like right around 2,000 a game. And it wasn't that long ago where 2,000 a game was, it would be an embarrassment. I mean, 2,000 a game is what we would expect if we were playing a small Christian college outside Chicago. And now that small Christian college outside of Chicago is about 1,500 or 1,300, and it's really kind of depressing to see those attendance figures.
2,000 a game at Cleveland State is called a packed crowd, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think Cleveland State should consider playing in the Woodling Gym.
But here's the other problem, and that's just to your point. Cleveland State just signed that agreement with Quicken Loans Arena.
Yeah.
And that's a 20,000 seat venue. And
because the Wolstein Center is not big enough at 13K.
Oh, of course not. Well, here was my question, and this is, and I was always surprised I was thinking, okay, well, great, the Q is going to be, I know the Cavs, they've got this big sales and marketing machine. Let them have at it.
Yeah.
3,600 for the Kent State game, 3,200 for the Ohio U game, and the Wolstein Center, which they are supposed to be managing the events for. They haven't even cracked 2,000 in any of the games yet, I don't think. I think Belmont possibly, but I didn't have the attendance figures for that.
That was a good game that you guys won.
That we actually won, yes. Yeah. But every one of them, and the non-D1 teams that we had there, it was a ghost town.
that or the Oakland Valpo game the other night. That looked pretty fantastic on television.
41-10.
Pretty loud too.
Was that a straight sellout?
And then some. That set a new attendance for the arena.
Wow.
That was
what was the previous high?
4,100, I think. They announced it.
I think it was 41-10 for the Valpo game. Yep. I think the previous high was right around 4,000. That's when you're at a sellout with standing room. You're right in that 4,000 mark.
Before you guys got into the conference, we had this HoriZone League rule that said that a HoriZone League school could not have less than 5,000 seats for their main home gym, and that had been written for us because we had played at the on-campus Klatchy Center, which was actual seats were about like 2,500 until like 2003 when Bruce Pearl decided we wanted to move downtown. And we moved downtown, and the HoriZone League quick passed a rule to kind of lock us in there. Say you have to have 5,000 or else, we're going to kick you out. So we couldn't go back, and we were stuck with this lease, and now we have this incredible debt, but the new athletic director's come in and it's fine. And then Oakland comes in, and but we'll just get rid of this 5,000. We'll just get rid of this 5,000 capacity.
What are these big gyms doing for anybody? No one's filling them.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
I really feel like if our arena was 7,000 seats, that it would help a lot. And I think that's Cleveland State's problem more than anything else, is that the Wolstein Center, the home gym, which as a building itself is not bad, it's the size.
It's oversized. It was oversized when they built it 25 years ago. And they knew it. They knew that it was going to be oversized.
Did they think that...
And they didn't even have any insight, knowing full well that down the street they were building the Q.
What was going to read it? Do you think that they had done that because they thought that Cleveland State could grow into it based off the success of under Mackey in the 80s?
I'm thinking either that, or I'm thinking the state gave them a whole boatload of money and they just took it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
You wish I wish that they would have put more of the money into the amenities rather than the seating capacity. Because I look at, I think one of the best examples of a school that took advantage of a run in the tournament is Gonzaga. When they went to that Elite Eight at the end of the 90s, they took advantage of it by getting number one. They kept Mark Few and locked him down forever. And then number two, they built the new arena on campus. And when you think of Gonzaga, and Spokane, Washington is a fairly big town. It's still a town, but it's a big town. And they have no competition. I'm thinking that the place got to be 12,000, 14,000. It's 6,000 seats.
Yeah.
And then before we moved back downtown, there was talk that we wanted to build an arena. I don't know where they would get the money for it, but there was talk to do that. So I would do the studying and find out what are the facility sizes elsewhere. And I'm looking at some of these schools, and Duke Cameron Indoor is 9,000 seats.
Hinkle Fieldhouse is 9,000.
Yeah, Hinkle had been 15, and they dropped it. They dropped it to what is it now? 9,000. It was 10.5, and then this latest round they actually reduced seating capacity going into the Big East, and it's such a. I think that more than anything really kind of holds back our conference, because I think if Cleveland State had a 4,000 seat arena, if the Wolstein was 4,000 seats, and Cleveland State would have that 3,500 of the Kent State game, all of a sudden you'd see more people come into more games because the atmosphere is so much better. And it's the same for all of us except Oakland.
Everyone wanted to talk about how small our gym was. My friends down the street, they love to talk about our high school gym, but that high school gym gets loud and it's fun.
Yeah, I just, if Callahan Hall were 5,000 seats,
there'd still only be 100 fans.
Well,
Come on.
He's gonna take shots at you, Carrick. That was gonna happen eventually.
Come on, we've
I'm
been on
surprised it took us this
I'm
long.
too sick to deal with it right now. I really am. I can't even fathom, because it's true. He's not full of it. I mean, most of our fans are over 50.
Yeah.
I'll be the
It's
first
a- it's
one
a
to
lot
say
of-
Sorry, have you
Probably
seen the Senior
overhead.
Citizen Center that's at the Wolstein Center? Come on.
Yeah,
I mean,
I know. I
Matt
haven't.
knows I'm very transparent. I have no problem saying exactly how it is. Things at UD, they're not horrible, but they're not, they're not the money boat left in the 70s, and they didn't get on the money boat.
Don't you still have a law school though, don't you?
Yeah, but none of those people will donate to Detroit Mercy because of the Mercy.
Because of the
There's millions getting lost because they'll only donate to basketball. There's two guys. I'm not allowed to know their names. I've talked to both of them. They're in their mid-90s. They roll up in Bentleys with butlers.
Ooh.
They refuse to donate to anything but the basketball team.
Yeah, I saw them. We
Yeah.
went to a game. A couple friends and I, Jose Matamoros, who's since graduated, and then a couple of our former donors. They don't like Jeter. Bob and Jabba Jack. And anyways, we did the Detroit trip. Obviously, this was before Oakland. We did a trip to Detroit in 2010. I want to say it was like January of 2010, or maybe it was January of 2009. But we went there, and we pull up, and swear to God, like two like Bentley Flying Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
Or like one guy must have had like the guy they got out and they were as old as dirt. But,
Oh yeah, the
but
one
it's like-
guy. I think
Yeah.
he must have talked to Keith Richards and got the like living forever potion. Because he's got to be 100. But yeah, he's got a butler, and his butler only refers to him as sir, and he sits next to the AD, so he must be given something.
That's incredible.
Wow.
I remember seeing Dave Bing at the game we went to.
That was when he was
Mayor
mayor.
then?
He was mayor then.
He was mayor at the time, yeah.
Yeah, because I know he was mayor, and then was he mayor before or after the bankruptcy? I cannot remember.
Before.
Yeah, I think
He
the
loved him in the
bankruptcy got blamed on his shoulders, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
I'm sure that wasn't his fault. He just
No.
kind of.
There's plenty of reasons, but I mean the really good thing about Detroit, and while the four of us are here, we may as well talk about this HoriZone League tournament. The really good thing is it looks like there's investment in the city itself for the first time in a long time.
No, I'm not a Red Wings fan. I'm a Penguins fan, and I despise the Illiches with the passion because he treats the Tigers like like they're nothing. But that the new district's going to be great, and that new arena when the tournament's there, it'll be worth the 3 years putting up with the dump that is Joe Louis.
I think we only have 2 years in the Joe, though, don't we?
Yeah, I think
Right.
it is only 2 years.
So where's the new arena going? Is it going by Ford?
Yeah.
No, it's a newer district that's being
Yeah.
It's a
assembled.
quarter mile up the road from the Comerica Park.
Okay.
Okay.
It's on the other side of the freeway, right across from Wayne State's Business School.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like Northwest, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 10 years ago you wouldn't have gone into that neighborhood.
Nope.
And it's completely different now.
They tore everything down. I mean, there's like the Masonic temples on the north side, which is really cool. A little bit sketchy. There's a lot of kind of hipster bars and all that over there. But yeah, they basically, it was a bunch of abandoned buildings. They knocked it all down, and they're building up. And it's funny because there's this bar called Bookies that, like 10 years before, they built their bar in the middle of these giant parking lots.
Yeah.
It's gonna be right next to the new arena.
Nice.
Yeah, like it's insane because you wouldn't think they were going to make any money, but now they're going to be rich. They'll be the only bar with a liquor license right there. So it's crazy what happens because literally, like the only time they would get people is after Tiger games when you can't get out of there.
I'm really excited. Carrick, before you had gotten on, I was telling Matt and Bob about we have a donor to the program who is putting together a hospitality room at the Cadillac, the Hotel Cadillac. I can't remember.
Yeah, the Westin. Yep.
The Cadillac Westin. That's what it is. The Cadillac Westin. He's going to put together a hospitality room. It's going to be for everybody, not just Panther fans. It's going to be everybody. So
cool.
You Detroit fans, Oakland fans, as long as you guys can remain civil.
No promises.
Yeah,
don't let a lot of those old guys in, and there won't be a problem.
We'll have a hospitality room. We're gonna do. He's been going to the Frozen Four since it's existed. So he's obviously been to Detroit a few times, to the Joe specifically. So he's putting together this. Hospitality room at the Cadillac Westin. We're getting a block of hotel rooms. I guess it's going to be at the Cadillac Westin at a steep discount, and everybody's invited. At the Frozen Four, he started this same kind of thing. It's a different city every year, but it started with like 10 people when he started really putting it together in the early 90s, and it's up to over 200 now. They do like 100 hotel rooms in a block in Tampa this year for the Frozen Four. So he's really looking to do this, with the Horizon League tournament in Detroit. So we are really excited about it with us, and I'm really happy because I really feel like we've all talked to each other for so long on Twitter and on the message boards. I mean, obviously Matt's still relatively new. This is coming up on year 3 in the Horizon League, and Carrick, you're still you've only been at Detroit for 5 years, so you guys are still pretty new. But Bob's been around a lot longer than I have, and I feel like when it first happened, and you guys obviously know the stigma that Detroit has everywhere else, and I was as loud as anybody else. I'm probably louder than most about ripping this idea about doing this neutral site at Detroit. And I actually feel really bad because the last time I really ripped it, I had gotten into an argument with Reggie, of all people.
Oh no!
And it was a week before his car accident.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's really got me upset about it is, I was in Pittsburgh with him, and I'm so happy I went to Pittsburgh with him.
Yeah.
And I didn't go with him, but I met him there, and I swear we were at the bar until 1. But he wanted the tournament there so bad, and just the way everything happened it's heartbreaking because that was his one thing. He wanted to show off the city to everybody. So it's going to be tough for a lot of guys not having him there, but it's we're going to put on a show, and we're off the red carpet. And it's going to be good for the city to get some basketball going. I mean, I don't think there's been outside of the NCAA tournament basketball in downtown Detroit in a long time.
Outside of all the stuff that happens at Ford, like the MAC title game and the actual games.
There's hasn't been basketball since the Pistons and the Titans moved out of Cobo, and that was 80s, maybe even earlier. So it's really the first time they've done basketball, which I'm a little nervous because the sightlines to the Joe are already not nice. I could only imagine if you get an Oakland-Detroit final and that place fills up.
If there's an Oakland-Detroit final, the Joe might not be big enough. Because it would be the first time in 11 years that Detroit's been to the title game. Or, well, besides the Ray years. And then, but it's there. It's in Detroit. You guys actually get your tournament there. And you're both good enough that you can get a 2 seed. It's just, you wouldn't even have to win the regular season title to get the home court advantage with a Valpo or somebody else in the title game. It's pretty exciting, and I hated the idea of the 2 schools getting this competitive advantage, and and Reggie and I argued about it. Like we had a discussion about it, and we kind of argued about it, and I kind of ripped it, and then of all people, Rob Jeter sat me down, and Rob Jeter and the athletic director here, Amanda Braun, she's been here since 2013, and they have. They don't have the best relationship. They get along, but there are a lot of times where they won't agree on certain things. And I was really expecting, Rob as as the basketball coach to hate this idea that Amanda signed off on. Obviously, your two schools voted for it. Gary Waters loves the idea, so Cleveland State
he
voted
recruits
for it.
Detroit so damn well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody in Detroit knew who Rob Edwards was. I was talking about it at the Pontiac basketball game the other day, and the Pontiac coach, Ben Kelso, played for the Pistons. He knows everybody. He goes, that kid was horrible last year, and now he's dropping 20 points a game for Cleveland State. So,
and that's why I didn't think he was going to do what he's been doing this season, because I really thought he was going to be behind a bunch of people, and all of a sudden he's pretty much he's the man.
He's de facto because of the talent vacuum. He's de facto
things that need not
team.
be explained anymore. Because but yeah, for whatever reason, and because Gary's obviously he's a Michigan guy. I mean, he graduated from Ferris State, I think, many years ago, and he was in Michigan forever. And so it's not surprising that he's all over Michigan. Hopefully he'll and I want to say he's expanded into actually the Cleveland area, and he has on a couple of occasions, but we've got to get a little further down state.
Yeah. I wanted to finish the point that I was making. Amanda Braun had pitched to me after the move was going to be made. Obviously, I broke the story on Panther View. And then I had found out that the two holdouts that voted against the tournament were Valpo and UIC. And so
I could have told you Valpo was going to do that.
Well, I'll tell you that my sources on the story were not Milwaukee people. So you can guess what two schools I got my sources from. And I talked. So I went to Amanda and I said, "Why would you vote for this?" And she gave me some line about student athlete experience is better. They won't have as much travel because it will be all on one weekend. It'll probably be after either this year or after next year's tournament. It's going to go from Saturday to Tuesday to Thursday to Sunday. She gave all sorts of certain lines, and I wasn't really convinced, but I was like, for you, because you're our AD and we get along very well, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt this year, and we'll see. And that was in May, or it was a couple weeks after I broke the story. So this past Saturday, we lose to Wright State, and I was sitting in Major Goolsby's, which is a fantastic sports bar. I've had several beers with a good man by the name of Reggie Hall on his road trips to Milwaukee at Major Goolsby's. And I'm sitting at Major Goolsby's. They do the post-game party afterwards. There's usually about 150, 200 people there. It had pretty much filtered out. J.J. Panoski and his family of like 40 people were on one side of the bar. In the other corner was myself and a couple of guys that run the Black and Gold Club, the Booster Club, and then Rob, Coach Jeter. And I had expected him to really be against the idea of the Detroit tournament. And instead, he kind of said, he said, look, this is what it is for the next 5 years. So even if you don't like it, this is what it is. But let me tell you something. This is him speaking to me. He says, let me tell you something. I think it's going to succeed. And he's like, he's like, the Illiches through Olympia, they know how to promote, and they do a really good job of promoting whatever's going on. They promote the everything they promote does very well. And he's expecting that Detroit, having the central location, instead of talking about how we don't have fan bases that travel, which none of us really do. Valpo kind of does, but not really. None of us really have fan bases that travel, and some of us, like Bob down there, don't even have fan bases to begin with. So,
thanks.
I'm just messing with you, buddy.
They don't even travel to their own state or their own arena.
So Jeter's
Sure,
so
we
Jeter
do
says,
on our rascal scooters.
he says maybe it's not so bad that it's in one place. He's like because this is going to be an opportunity for the fan base to grow. People can plan ahead to do these amazing, to get a big group, and you can make an amazing thing out of it. And we may have, we may put 5,000 fans in the Joe, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's more. It's what the Arc holds in Valpo, and and if everybody knows that it's at Detroit, they can plan ahead. I mean, I know probably 6 or 7 guys that got their passports taken care of so they could go to Windsor and gamble during the tournament.
Well, gamble and the clubs there are fully nude. That's the other reason.
Oh, really?
Really?
Well, I wonder if I could expedite a passport card.
If you have an enhanced ID, you're good.
Yeah?
Yep.
I don't know if I have an enhanced ID.
That's a Michigan thing mostly, I think.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. Michigan, New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Wisconsin we don't really. They're big on IDs, but it's mostly voter ID that they're big on over here.
Oh. No comment on your governor.
Yeah, we love him. We actually have a practice facility on its way. The students are pulling in a $25 fee per student per semester, which by the time it's done will bring in about $25 million, and it's been in place since 2010. It's got several million dollars in the fund gathering interest, but the problem with it is that we don't have enough money to build this practice facility yet. The plan was to build $13 million practice facility, and we don't have the cash for it up front, so the plan was to put $13 million in the state budget, have it in there, and then as we get the money from the students, put it back into the state budget at a zero net cost to the taxpayer. Well, somebody was running for president, I guess, and decided that they needed to have a balanced budget to make certain big money donors happy and willing to back that person for presidential bid. So we had a couple academic buildings that got the kibosh, and then this athletic building, which while athletics was a net zero on the taxpayers, but now it's getting pushed off to the 17 to 19 budget, to the 2017 to 19 budget. So
that was a great run, by the way. Whoever spent money on that campaign just pretty much should have just taken money and just set it on fire.
for all the good it did, right?
Yeah.
The conservatives in the state love him, so I was actually pretty surprised that he had bowed out as fast as he did. But that's what happens when you don't manage your money in a campaign. But I bring it up because we would have shovels in the ground this spring on a practice facility that would be $13 million, which is, while not world beater like the place Utah just opened, it's still like $1 million more expensive than the one they just opened at Creighton in Omaha, which is a Big East school. So the benefits that you get from facilities, we're kind of putting it off from where we have. So Jeter thinks that the Horizon League tournament in Detroit's going to be a good thing. And I'm happy to bring it up with you guys because you are Detroiters, and he made me a convert. Between him and the donor who's going to put together all the hospitality rooms and stuff for the Black and Gold Club. So everybody listening to this, that the Black and Gold Club, it's open to all Horizon League fans. So when we have it set up, come by and have whatever's in the hospitality room on us. So I suppose we should probably wrap it up here.
Yes.
You guys have predictions on the Detroit Oakland game?
We've won 3 or 4. I don't see why we'd lose again.
Yeah. 3 or 4, really.
Yeah.
Kay Felder today in the press conference, he was asked about it. He goes, "It's only a rivalry if they can win games, so we don't plan on let's being a rivalry."
That fourth game was pretty. That fourth of the 3 of 4 was a little bit in the other direction, though.
It was the third one, I think.
No, it was the fourth.
Was it fourth? Okay. Yeah, we got our asses handed in one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The rest of them?
Yeah.
I think we're the better team, and we're gonna do our job.
Carrick?
I'm not going to give a prediction, but I think there's some keys. Paris has to shoot well, but it's got to be a team game. If they play a team game, they'll have a good shot at winning. And really, like I said earlier, really excited to see Josh and Kay go at it.
All right. Well, I think we should pretty much wrap it up by now. I'm thank you guys for sticking around a lot longer than
Hey, no problem.
we had talked about. I thought this was a fantastic job. Bob, did you have anything to say before we wrapped it up?
Nothing. Other than the spiel. I mean, you can catch all of us on forlights.fm, and you can follow us on. You can catch the podcast on iTunes and TuneIn.
So yeah, iTunes, TuneIn. I think we're on SoundCloud too, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're on SoundCloud, and for you degenerates like me who have a BlackBerry still, it's also on Nobex Radio. So
there's BlackBerry still exists.
I own one. Thank you.
I might get a BlackBerry, or I might get a Razr. I don't know. Do you still make the Motorola Razr?
Yes. Yeah. No. Of course not. They moved it over to Droid. No. BlackBerry actually makes an Android-based phone now, but it costs $750. So.
$750.
Well,
with
yes.
Open source programming system. Great. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming on the HoriZone Roundtable. This was actually a roundtable today. Bob McDonald from Cleveland State, myself, Jimmy Lemke from Panther U, Carrick Jones from UDM Radio and the Varsity News at the University of Detroit Mercy, and our always a good friend, Matt Dudek, the drummer guy from Oakland.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Have a good one. We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you next week.